Business session for the quiz one. So I guess we should be waiting for a few more minutes to see if more participants are going to join the session. So we shall get started in next few minutes. We'll see that if there are any more participants who are willing to join. Okay, I guess we can get started now. I think people can join in between. I hope I'm still audible to everyone.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so as usual, what we'll do is we will basically walk through the mock paper. We hope that many of you would have already tried solving those questions as it was released, I guess, on Monday or Tuesday. Not sure what the exact day was. So we expect that most of your queries should get clear by the end of this walkthrough of mock. And in case a few of them, if they still persist, we'll be taking them at last once we finish our walkthrough for the mock paper. I hope this is okay with everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. All right, so I'll share my screen. I hope my screen is also visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, so we have a total of 16 questions. All right, so we'll start with the first question here. So consider the following JavaScript program and print the output if executed. So what is basically done in this example is that there are two objects. One object is A, the other one is B. In object A, we can see one property named x1, which is initialized with 10. The another property is func1, which is basically a function, which is initialized with a function that is trying to log the value of this .x1. Similarly, for B object, there is a property named x1, similar to object A, which is assigned to 20. And there is a property called func2, which is initialized with a function, and the function is doing something. And at last, what we are doing is we are simply making a call to this func2 function, which belongs to object B. So the moment our control goes to this statement, that is b.func2, so what will happen is the control will automatically get inside this function, that is func, because this is the function that belongs to object B, and this is what we are calling it. Now, as soon as the control get inside this function, what we see is the very first statement inside this function definition says that take the function that belongs to object A, the function name is func1. That means a.func1, a function named func1, which belongs to object A. So we can see that object A has two properties. One is x1, the other one is func1, and we are right now referring to this func1, which is basically a function. What we do is we assign it to a different variable, that is C. So in JavaScript, of course, functions are first class functions, means you can even assign them into variables. And then what we are doing with this variable C, we are basically using apply method here. And in apply method, we are passing a few arguments. So we'll discuss that what these few arguments are. But does anybody know that what is the purpose of using apply, call, or let's say bind function?
So shall I try?
This passes an object, and these parameter will be updated with that object.
These parameter will be
this parameter inside the function will be updated with the argument object.
which argument?
Like c.apply b, then this parameter of c will be updated with the object b.
Okay. Okay. What about the other argument?
So in general, the format is like this: c dot parameter apply on object name. So
Okay.
any parameter in C object, we can apply on another object. And the difference between this one and the call is that in apply, we give the argument in array, where in call, we do not use any array. So here the argument is 10. So we are passing this argument 10, and that is, and C dot apply, directly this object is being applied on this another object. So we are not referring any other parameter of that C object here.
Okay.
And the C here. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, correct. You both are correct. So basically, why do we use these call or apply or bind methods? We use them to basically bind a different context with a function. For example, we know that this function belongs to object A. But let's say you want to invoke the same function, but with a different execution context. Now, different execution context means that the value of this, it should be different. It should not be A. Since it belongs to object A, so it becomes obvious, or it makes sense to, that this reference will be referring to A only here. But what we can do with these methods is like, call and apply, we can change that context. And whatever context we want to provide, or whatever value of this reference we want to provide here, we pass it as the first argument of call or apply. Doesn't matter. Whenever we use call or apply, the very first argument, it should be the context. That means that context is going to refer what this reference is going to denote, or what this reference is going to represent. Now, since we are saying here B, that means this inside this function, right? Func1, this is going to refer to what? This is going to refer to B object. That is here, B object. And what will happen to this 10 or this array, which is just having one element called 10? What will happen with this? Can someone tell?
It will get ignored.
Argument of
Function is not taking any parameter.
It will be ignored.
Exactly.
We are not passing any parameter.
If there would have been some parameters in this function, some formal parameters, then this would have come into action. But right now, this function is not accepting any parameters, is not taking any arguments. So whatever value that you will write after this context, that will simply be ignored. The entire array, it doesn't matter if you write an array of 100 elements, that entire array will be ignored. So now just try to guess the answer. What will happen? What we are saying is that the context of this function is now changed to B. It's not anymore A. It has now been changed to B. Now you say that this dot x1. So this here represents B. So ultimately this will be converted to B dot x1. Now what do you think? What do we expect the output to be for a statement? B dot x1.
20.
20.
20. So the answer should be 20 here.
Sir, without calling C is equal to A dot func1, there is no meaning of writing C dot apply in bracket B comma 10, correct?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir.
So does anyone has any doubt regarding this question? How apply function works, or how the output is going to be 20 here? What if you pass A in the apply? So if you would have passed A, then the output would have been 10. Then this would reference to A, and A dot x1 would be 10. Okay, so my next question is that let's say if you don't pass anything here, you leave it empty, you don't pass even the array here. You just write C dot apply, opening round bracket, closing round bracket. What do you think what the value of this reference would be inside that function?
undefined.
It will be NaN,
The value of this?
not a number.
No. NaN is used for a different.
Undefined. It should be undefined. We are not referring anything, no?
Okay. So remember this thing that whenever you are basically making an empty call with call or apply method, if no context is passed, then it is going to be considered as global object by default.
Okay.
Okay. That means if there are no arguments, so this is going to refer to what? Global object. All right. I
Sir,
hope
can
we'll
you-
see one such question. Yeah.
Sir, but then in that case, it will be undefined, no?
Yeah. In that case, the answer would be undefined. Yes. Since
Sir, can
global
you-
object has no property called x1 defined, right now we cannot see anything x1 defined in the global object. So that's why it would be.
Okay, sir.
But the reference would become global object. It won't be an empty.
But sir, here global object will be the one which is having that dedicated definition. That is what?
Sorry, global object is one which is having dedicated definition. What does this mean?
Sorry, means what we are referring here by means of global object. When I will be writing C dot apply a blank one, then
Yeah.
what will be the global object in that case?
So global object is basically something that provides you all of the functions, or maybe let's say the web API functions that you can use throughout your program. Let's say set timeout, or let's say clear interval. So these are the methods or the functions which are provided by global object. That's why you can use them anywhere in your program.
Okay, so we are talking about inbuilt global objects that is supported by Vue.
We are not
JavaScript.
talking
Sorry.
about view at all.
JavaScript, sorry.
Yeah.
Hello,
Yeah,
sir.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sir, how can we set a global object? And that is one question, and another is like why the var keyword cannot set a global object?
Why the?
Why the var keyword, var keyword cannot set a global object?
I'm not getting your question. Why the where keyword cannot set global object?
So there is
Yes,
one question actually. He's
Yeah.
asking in that context.
Which is that
Uh,
question?
yes,
Is it present in mock?
yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. We'll come on to that. Please just
Oh,
point out whenever that question comes. Okay.
okay, yes, sir.
Sir, can you please explain this question once again?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll just give you a quick overview of what is happening in this question. So we basically have defined two objects. One is A, the other one is B. A object is having two properties. One is x1, which is assigned to 10, value 10, and the other property is func1, which is initialized with a function. Similarly, object B is also having two properties. One is x1, which is assigned to 20, and func2, another property, which is initialized with the function. At last, what we are doing is we are making a call to this func2 function with the reference of B object. That means we want to call this function func2, which is defined in object B with the reference of B. So that means if there would have been this usage of this keyword inside this function, then this would have been referring to B. But right now there is nothing as such, so that doesn't mean. Now what we do is as soon as we get into this function definition, we say that a.func1, we assign it to C. Now what is a.func1? A object is this. What is func1? Func1 is a function. So what we are doing is we are assigning this function into a different variable called C. And now what we are doing with that function is, so we just discussed that the usage of apply and call. What the purpose of using them is basically to define or to pass a different execution context. That means to change the value of this inside those functions. For example, if you would be calling this a.func1, the value of this is going to refer to A. But right now, what we are doing here is c.apply. What we are passing is the very first argument is basically the value of this reference. It is going to define what this is going to represent in that function definition that is going to be invoked with this call. So what we are saying is C is representing this func1 function, and you are calling that function with this reference set to B. That means this is going to refer to P here, not A. This function belongs to object A, but now with this call, this is going to represent B, not A. And this tense will simply be ignored because this function is not accepting any arguments. So whatever you will write after this execution context argument, that would simply be ignored. Once you get into this function definition, so you will see that this function is to just executing one statement. What is that? This is simply logging out the value of this .x1 on the console. Now, what is this here? We just discussed that this is what is passed here, that is B. So this will be replaced with B, and ultimately what you are going to log on console is b.x1. And what is b.x1? X1 is a property defined in B object that is going to refer to 20. So 20 is the answer for this question.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
Sir, if the apply thing was empty, then 10
it
is
would have been
taken.
a global object. This would refer to global object, and so global object has no property x1 defined, so it would have given undefined in that case.
Oh, global object. I didn't understand that part, sir. So if that
the apply actual parameters are empty, you are not providing any value of this reference, then by default it is going to be considered as the global object. That means this is going to refer to what? Global object. It is not going to refer to any other object, let's say A or B. It is going to refer to the global object.
And what do we mean by global object here, sir?
So global object is something that we use extensively in JavaScript. So, whatever functions or whatever methods that you can use throughout the program. For example, set interval, for example, clear interval. So these all methods are provided by global object.
Okay, right. Something like this also exists in Java, right?
This, of course, exists in Java, but global object, I don't know if there is any such thing in Java. This definitely exists in C++ and Java. Yeah, it is okay. But I don't know what do you mean by global.
So yeah, so Java has this normal object thing, no, which I don't know, they have a super object class or something. Yes, parent object. Is that the same thing that we're talking about?
No, it does not mean that if you're creating an object that is going to, inherit from the global object. That's not correct. Parent object is a completely different. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so all right. Again, this is the JavaScript program, and I guess we are again making use of apply. Okay, so this time we are not passing any arguments. So okay. So you're talking about object class. Yeah. So by default, whatever class you create in Java. So if it is not inheriting any other class, then by default, it is going to be inheriting the object class. And in case it is inheriting a class, so the class that it is inheriting from, that class is going to be the child class of object class. So of course, in JavaScript, Java, every program has that inheritance feature. Object class is going to be the parent class of your class in any sense. Okay, so what is happening in this question is const A. Again, we are defining two objects, A and B. So both are same. Again, what do you mean both here?
So is the global object and the parent object same?
No, they are not same.
Okay, they're not same. And why is that?
Yeah, so A and B objects are here. And again, A object is defining two properties, x1, which is defined or which is assigned to 10. And there is called one more property, func1, which is again initialized with a function. Similarly, if we talk about B object, it is defining two properties, x1, which is assigned to 20, and func1, which is assigned to a function. And that function is again doing something. At last, I guess this is very much similar to the first question. I guess there is a small change here. So we are making b.func2. That means again, we are making a call to this function. What we are doing is we are assigning the func1 function that belongs to object A into a different variable called C. That's what we were doing even in the previous question. Just the way we are calling here, it becomes different. Right now, what we are doing is we are not passing any object here. Right? We are not passing any value to this reference, because we discussed that the very first argument to call or these apply methods is going to be the context, or it is going to be the value that this is going to refer inside the function definition. Since it is not defined, or you are not specifying it explicitly, what it is going to be considered is basically the global object. Now, when you get into this function, when the control goes inside this function, you see what you are trying to log is 5 plus this dot x. In the previous question, we discussed that if it is a global object, right now we are not defining any x1 attribute in the global object. No way. We have defined it in object A, we have defined it in object B, but we have not defined it inside the global object. So what this dot x1 is going to refer, can someone guess?
So that will be undefined. Plus 5. That
Correct.
is
5 plus undefined. And what should the result? 5 plus undefined.
Not a number. NaN.
Yeah, it should be any. So if you're trying to add an invalid value with a number, it would always be any. Right?
Sir, so in JavaScript, all of an object's functions can be accessed separately, is it?
Can be accessed separately. Sorry, I didn't get it.
So here, function 1 is not related to object A. It's not attached with object A, right? It's not like it is in Java. It is different.
Correct. So what we are able to do here is we are able to change their execution context with the help of these methods.
Okay, got it. And why would that be useful, sir? Because you can't define functions here, is it?
Sorry, you cannot define functions?
Can you define empty functions here without objects?
Can you define empty functions here without objects? Not exactly getting it. Means you can define function.
Yes.
Okay, you can do that here. Okay, thank you.
And I would like to add something about the global object. You can go to the browser console and try to log this console.log this, then it will give you the window object. For the browser, the global object is window object. So a global object is an object which always which is always available in global context.
Okay, got it.
It is different for the different like execution context. If
For
you see
example,
the
if I
browser,
just go to console, I can show you typing this. So see, this is
you can
basically
see
giving
that
us this window object.
So even if we
Okay.
have not defined any object here, we can see that there is a object available in the global scope.
Okay.
That
okay.
is what the global object is. But if you try to print it on the using the node, it will be different. It will not be the window object.
Okay.
So the global object depends on the execution context.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is going to be a more confusing question. Well, we discuss it. So what we are doing here is we are creating a variable called x, and we are using where as the keyword in order to define that variable or in order to initialize that variable. After that, what we are doing is we are defining one object with name obj. It is having two properties, x, which is defined assigned to 10, and fun, which is defined or which is assigned to a function. And that function is doing something. We are not worried about that for now. What we'll see is that what this statement is going to do. So obj.fun, that means it is going to call this function. And what is the parameter or the value? The value is 20. So that means this function is going to get the value as 20 in this x parameter. And the moment x gets 20, what is being done in this function is that you are assigning this value x that you have got as parameter. You are going to assign it to what? This dot x. Now, can someone tell me that what this is referring to here?
OBJ.
But in arrow function, this refers nothing.
Correct. So in arrow function, it does not mean that it does mean nothing. It has a meaning, but it is not the same as the normal functions in JavaScript. In normal cases, this would have referred to the object, right? It would have object referred to the obj itself. But since it is an arrow function, the usage of this is going to be different. What this is going to refer here is it is going to basically refer the inherit the context from its parent scope. Now, can someone tell me that what is the parent scope of this?
There is global scope.
Global.
Exactly, it is global. So that means this right now, it's representing to what? It is referring to what?
It is referring to global scope.
Global.
It is referencing to the global object. So this is referencing to the global object in this statement at the moment you say that x equals to this dot x. So I'm reading it from right to left. That's how the associativity works. That means the value from right side will be assigned to the left hand expression. So 20 will be assigned to what? This dot x. Now remember one thing, that when you are creating variables with where, right now what I'm talking about is that let's say we are trying to execute this function in a browser console. I'm not saying that I'm executing this function in a node.js script file. What I'm saying is that I am trying to execute this function in a browser console. And if I am trying to do so, what happens is that whatever variables that you declare using where outside the function definition, right? This where is declared outside the function definition. It is basically added as a property of the global object. I will show you as well. I guess we in the initial few sessions, we tried that thing where we took one JavaScript file, we initialized variable with where and let keywords. We saw the difference that the variables declared using let and const, they are going into a different section called script, and the variables declared using where, they are basically going into the same global object. So I'll just open a new console or new window, and I'll open console here. So what will I do is I'll say that where a equals to 10. Sorry. So what I'm saying is, I'm saying that where a equals to 10. Let me just close this out. Okay. So what happened was that it said that, okay, it has written undefined because this entire expression is going to return undefined. But now we have a variable a in the current scope, or we can say in the global scope. Now, if I will print the value of this, or let's say window. So see, I am getting window object in return. I could have written window as well. Now you would be able to find a object somewhere that is defined here. Right? Let me see where that a object was declared. Okay, we have declared it here. So we should be able to find the value of it somewhere here. So you can see that a is here. And it is assigned to the same value that we used before. So what does this mean is, that means the variable that are declared using where keyword, they are added as properties to the global object. But now if the same thing, let's say, is done with let keyword, let's say I use let and I create a new variable called b, initialize it with 20. I again print this. You won't get b here. Right? Why? Because b was declared using let. And it is not going to be added as property in the global object. But the variables which are declared using where are going to. Right. So we are talking about this case, when we are trying to execute this program in the browser console. So there are basically two cases. Like firstly, we are discussing that when we are trying to execute it in a browser console. So what will happen is, when you say this dot x equals to x, right? So this is going to refer to what? This is going to refer to global object, and global object, you are trying to access the x attribute of it. You see, you just saw that when we create variables using where keyword, they are automatically added as global objects attribute. And when you execute this statement, so what you are doing is, you are actually modifying the value of this variable. This variable that is defined on the top of this program. So now the value of this x has been changed to what? This has been changed to what was passed here, that is 20. And in the last line, when you will come here, you will try to print the value of x. So what should be the value of x?
Again 5.
Sorry?
That will be 5, no, sir.
Right?
That
We are
should be
discussing the
20.
global where we are
object-
executing this program in the browser console. And we saw that when we do it in browser console, the variables which are declared using where, they are automatically added as properties of global object. That means if you will write this dot x, it is going to give you 5 after this statement, because x is present in the global object. And when you execute this statement, this dot x equals to x, you are not changing any other variable's value. You are actually changing this value.
That will be 20 then.
Yeah. So this x will basically represent 20 in such case, when we are executing this program inside the browser console, or let's say in the node interactive mode. We are not trying to execute this program as a script. We are executing it either in the, let's say, node interactive terminal or in the browser console. X is going to refer to 20. So 20 and 10 is correct answer for this question, but this is not the only correct answer. There is a different perspective of finding the answer for this question as well. The different perspective is that when you execute this program as a script, right? So when you execute a program as a script, so the way it is executed is basically different from the way it is executed in browser console or in the node interactive term. What happens is that when you execute it as a script, it is executed as a module. And what I mean as a module, maybe I can just, write you a simple example.
So it means that in VS Code, if I use Node.js to execute this without browser, so it will be run as a script model. In that case,
if you're
I will
saving
get
it,
x equal to
if
5.
you're writing the code, let's say in a file called app.js, and you are saying node app.js, then it is going to be run as
script, and in that case, x will be equal to 5.
in
But
that
if I
case, the
execute the
output is
same
going
in
to be
browser,
changed, and we are going to discuss it now. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, sir. Getting it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, means we have finished discussing what will happen if we execute it in a browser console. Now we are discussing what will happen if we execute it as a script. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yeah, let's say I'll just create a, let's say, variable called a, and it is an empty object, say. And after that, what I do is, let's say I create this poke function. So whenever you write a program as a script, or when you try to execute it as a script, so whatever code you write in that script or in that program or in that file, that code is basically put inside this function definition, right? That's why if you are using this here, this is not going to refer to the global object. The reason is that we are executing this function via call, and what we are passing as the very first value, that is going to be the execution context or the value of this reference. And guess what? It is an empty object reference. So if you will try to print console.log and this here, or let's say this equals to global, or let's say window, whatever it is, then this won't be seen. It would basically return you false in that case, because this is not the same as the window object or the global object. It is what? It is A. Right? And when you even write declarations using where keyword, where A equals to 5. So what we discussed is that if the declaration is done outside a function, then it will be added as a property to the global object. But right now, this declaration or this initialization is being done inside a function implementation, inside a function definition. So that's why it won't be added as a property. This is the case, or this is what will happen when you try to execute a JavaScript program as a script. That means you write your code in a file and you try to execute that file. So according to this case, what will happen is that when you go to this.x, now this is not the global object. What this is, it is going to inherit the context from the parent. And in the parent, this is going to refer to this empty object, right? Which was passed as a parameter to this call method. So this is an empty object. And what you are doing is, since x does not exist before, what you are doing is you are creating a new property in that object and you are assigning 22. And the moment you say x here, then this x is not representing this.x. This.x is different and this x is different. Because this time we are executing it as a script, and this x and this.x, they both are different. So x is here. Yeah.
But in inside script, it may be defined as an arrow function.
Inside script, it may be defined as an arrow function. Yes. So
yes. Then what will be done? Then what will be the?
See, what I said is that arrow function inherit this reference from their enclosing context. Even if you write arrow function here, the global context is what? It is this function scope. And what is the value of this here? This is still the A.
Okay. Got it. So here parent context is the current function.
Yeah.
Current object.
Yeah, it is basically an empty object, right? I have just shown you an example that how script is basically executed. Okay. So what we do is whatever code you write inside the script file, that is just put inside here, this function definition, and you basically call this function with the context of an empty object. Okay, we can do this like this as well. Yeah, is it okay? Are you able to understand the difference? What will happen when you execute this program as a script or in the browser console?
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
Sir, in program is you just shown, we are referring there one empty object A.
Yeah.
But the code which is given here in mock, we are not having any empty object. We are having an object obj, which is having some properties specified over there. Yeah, so within an arrow function, when I write this dot x is equal to x, what I think it will still refer to the global object, but that value will get assigned to the global object. But here we are executing this as a script, you are saying, so it must refer to the variable x, that is var x is equal to 5. Is that correct?
No,
or am I getting it wrong?
So if you are executing this as a script, this is going to refer to what? This is going to refer to enclosing context. what is the enclosing context of this function? It is the scope where this object is defined. And where object is defined inside this function.
Sir, not referring this program is, can you refer only the mock one? And there you can you explain how?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that if you're executing it as a script, the entire code that you write inside the script, that is going to be put inside this function definition. So this can be considered as a template code, and whatever you write is just going to be put inside this function.
Okay.
And then it is going to be executed.
Right. Okay. So whenever it is, we are taking a context from the script, we have to think in this fashion. There is one empty object and the function is written, and whatever we write in the script, that will be the part of that function.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay, sir. Now I'm getting. Thank you.
So in that sense, there are basically two correct options for this particular question. 20 and 10 is also correct in case we are trying to execute this program in the browser console or in the interactive shell for Node, say. And the second case is that when we are trying to execute this program as a script. So if we are trying to execute it as a script, what should be the output?
Now it will be 5 and 10.
It would be 5 and 10. So basically both of these answers are correct. Doesn't matter whichever you will choose, 20 or A or B, they both are going to be correct. You are going to get full marks for each of these options.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, so when we invoke this function object dot func with a 20, so x is getting passed as 20.
Yeah.
And when I say this dot x, should that not refer to the global variable x, which has the value 5 for now? And then that will also become 20. So the answer should be 20 and 20.
This is what will happen when you execute this program in the browser console. This is exactly what is going to happen in that case. And in that case, 20 and 10 is going to be the correct answer. But as I have mentioned, there are two aspects through which you are actually looking at it.
Why should it not be 20 and 20? Okay.
Sorry, I'm not getting it.
So
according to you, object.x should be 20 as well, is it?
Okay, no, that will remain 10. Yes, got it. Got it. Thank you.
Sir, in the correct answer, should it not be 5 and 20, like 20 and 10 and 5 and 20?
No, why 20? Why object.x is going to be 20? How?
Because this dot x equals x. So, and you told that this dot x will be the context object. So context
this dot x is going to be, so this is going to be the enclosing context. And what is the enclosing context of this? It is basically global object in case you are executing it in the browser console, or it is an empty object if you are executing it as a sorry?
Inside script. Can you please, repeat what will be inside script? Like
inside script, what will happen is that this is going to refer to what? This is going to refer to the scope in which this program is written. Or what is the scope of this OBJ? That is going to be the value of this. And now, if you want to find that what the scope of this OBJ object is, you can simply come here. What I said is that when you write a program as a script, the entire program is basically put inside this function. So this is basically the program that you wrote as a script. I can just add a comment as well. Program in script. So whatever you will write here, whatever you will write inside the script, that is just going to be dumped inside this function definition as it is. And since it is going to be dumped as it is, this OBJ will have the scope of this function, right? This OBJ is defined in this function scope, right? And how you are calling this function? You are calling this function with this A as the execution context. So that means this inside this function, the value of this is going to refer to what? It is going to refer to this A, which is defined here, and it's an empty object. Are you getting it?
Okay, got it.
Is that understood? Or yeah?
Sir, that mock question, will you please show?
Yeah.
Instead of this arrow function, if it is a normal function, no arrow is there. then is
Yeah.
it still
Normal
valid?
function means you are basically representing this object itself.
Yeah. So in
You are
that case,
representing
this
OBJ.
dot x will take obj.x, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Correct. Okay.
So, sir, if it was a normal function, then it would have been assigned a value 10, right? Instead of 5.
No,
Then
20.
20, no, because you're
20.
passing
then
20.
obj.x will become 20. This will remain same.
Right, sir. Got it.
Okay,
So, sir,
so-
in this example, the obj.x that is like working same as a script file and interactive mode.
Yeah, it is going to work.
Okay, and can you like tell one example where it will be different? The obj.x will be different.
If it is a normal function, we just took an example. If it's a normal function, this is going to represent, or this is going to refer to what? Obj itself. So in that case, the x inside this object will change if it is a normal function.
Okay.
This is only in the case of arrow definition of functions. Yes, this is happening because we have created it as an arrow function. So arrow function is a issue with this. So this is not the same as you see in normal functions. So that's why this problem is basically coming in here. And that was entirely the purpose of giving this question, so that you can understand that how this behaves in a normal and arrow functions, and what is the difference of executing a Java program as a script or as a or in the browser console or in the node interactive shell or wherever it is. So is this question clear to everyone? The two aspects of it?
Sir, I have one question.
Yeah.
Sir, why would you use an arrow function? Because this in this case is not even referring to the parameter you are passing. It is referring to some other variable which may be defined in the program. So isn't that leaving a lot of stuff ambiguous? So why would you use the arrow function at all?
See, the purpose of using the arrow functions is, okay, so when you basically, okay, it is very much similar to the anonymous functions. So whenever you want to basically create a function for some small purpose, or let's say for just a one-time purpose, you basically work with arrow functions. For example, if we talk about set timer, so what you have to do is you have to provide a callback. Now it makes sense to basically provide a function there which is just used for a single time. Let's say if you create a normal function, you define, let's say, function ABC, that is just used that is to be used at just one place, inside that set timeout, and after that you are not going to use it anywhere else. So it makes sense to basically define the anonymous functions. So here you can create arrow function in that case.
Yeah, so my doubt is, even if I'm using it, why would I use a this inside that? Because that is just creating confusion. No, I should just deal with the parameters that are passed and give an answer.
Right now, this seems to be a problem for you, but when you will start coding for applications, this is going to be a boon for you. In some cases, it is going to be very useful.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Arrow function is not recommended to use as a method. By the method, I mean a function which is inside the object. So you should not use the arrow function as a method. You can use it as a callback function for a redefined functions.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so is this question clear to everyone? Third question, the two aspects of it. So both first and second options are correct.
Yes, sir, clear.
So shall we move to the next question if everyone is clear?
Sir, I didn't get how the second option is also correct. First I got it, second I didn't get it.
So second is the case when you are trying to execute this program as a script. And what we discussed so far is that whenever you are executing a program as a script, whatever code that you write inside the program or inside that file, that code is just dumped in place of this code. Now, if I will just remove this, So that code will be dumped in at this place inside this function definition. Right now, assume that whatever code is there, that is just dumped in inside this function. No, for example, there is a let, there is an object here, whatever it is, or it is declared using let, whatever it is, I don't know.
Okay.
And you are defining certain properties, say x, which is 10 here, and then there is something called function, and this is basically an arrow function. I'm not focusing on the syntax too much. I'm just trying to make you understand that how this will work. So this dot x equals to x. This is basically accepting to now. So this is something which is happening here. So this is also going to be x. Its value is, I guess, 5. Now, what will happen is that the moment you make a call to this function, what you are doing here is you are making a call to object.func with the value 20. So what you do here is you similarly make a call a.func and you say 20.
Okay.
The moment control goes here, you see that this is an arrow function, and arrow function has a different meaning of this. It is not going to refer to the calling object. That means it is not going to refer to. Right? So what this is going to refer? This is going to refer to what? It is going to inherit it from the enclosing context. Now, what is the enclosing context of this function? It is the same context in which this A object is declared, this A object. And where A object is declared in, what is the value of this at this place? That means if I say, what is the value of this at this place? Can you tell? What is this here? Just look at the entire program.
The function is.
It is going to be A, because what we are doing is, it is a function. See, it is a function, and you are calling this function using call method, and the first argument, which is the value of this reference, it is A. So that's why this is going to refer to A. And what is A? A is an empty object that is defined on top.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So this is what it is basically representing, or it is referencing to this A. This is an empty object. So that means it is saying that A.x. Now this A and this A is different. Let me just change its name so that it becomes clear. So what this .x is saying is that it is basically saying B.x. And since there is no property in this B object called X, what you are doing is you are creating a new property and you are assigning this value 22. So now you can assume that this B object will now have one property named X, which is assigned to 20. But the moment you come to the last line of this program, that is, you are trying to print the value of X and object.x. That means at last, you say you are trying to print the value of X and object.x. Now, tell me what is going to be the value of X here. So this X is what? Which is present in this scope, in this function scope. That means you have to just look at this code. What is the value of X in this highlighted portion?
5.
It is 5. Sorry. It is 5. And what is the value of object.x? Again, look at this portion of code. So this obj.x means a.x.
Okay. Okay. 10. Right.
Yeah, it is 10. So in that sense, you are going to get the output as 5. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
So what you are doing is whenever you are executing a program as a script, you are simply putting all of the code that you have written inside that file inside this function definition. Right? This is an empty function initially. So just consider it as a template code, and whatever code that you are going to write inside the file, that will be put in here. That's it. Is that okay? Have you understood now?
Yes.
In case you are still having problems, please let me know. Maybe we can just discuss it one more time.
So can you switch back to the question?
Yeah.
So only 20 and 5 change.
Sorry, only 20 and 5 change. Sorry, again, I get it.
Yeah, so sir, in the two explanations that you made, only 20 and 5 changed. So in the
Correct.
first
Object and object.x is going to remain same in both the cases.
object.x remains same. Yes. So it only gets reassigned when it's getting executed on a browser. And the other explanation that you made, the case where it does not get reassigned is when the entire script is placed inside a function, is it?
No. What I'm saying is that when you try to execute this program as a script, now what do I mean executing a program as a script? Let's say you write this program inside a file named app.js. And then what you do is you, let's say, write a command node app.js. Then this program is going to be executed as a script. And in that case, this output will come.
Okay. And the other case where you get 5 and 10 is?
This is the case 5 and 10 when you execute it as a script. The other case 20 and 10 is when you simply write this program inside the browser console.
Okay, so got it.
So 20 and 10 is the case when you were executing it in the browser console. 5 and 10 is the case when you were executing it as a script. What I would suggest you to do is just write this program inside the browser console and see what the output is, and just save this program in a file named app.js and execute it using node. Just go to REPL, open a node.js REPL, type this entire program in the index.js file and click on run and see what the output is.
Yes, sir, we'll do that, sir.
So shall we move to the next question now?
So if in browser console, if we are trying to execute this code, and the first line is instead of var x equal to 5, if it is let x equal to 5.
No, then it would be different. It won't be added as a property of global object. One second. Yeah, in that case, it won't be added as a property of global object. So this dot x is again going to refer to something else. And this x is going to refer to this 5. So in that case, it will be 5 in both the cases.
So even if it is let x equal to 5 in browser console, it will print 5.
Correct. The moment you change this var to let, it is going to be 5 and 10 in both the cases.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions regarding this?
Sir, if this kind of question come in the exam, will not it be very tricky?
Well, you won't get such question in your exam. At least, where 2 of the options have the same marking, so you won't get such option. If you will get any such option, we will make sure that there is only one correct answer in the entire options.
Okay.
Okay, so if that question is clear, again, I would like to tell you that 20 and 10 and 5 and 10 both are the correct answers for this option. So whichever you select, you are going to get full marks. Okay. I'm selecting one, or I could even select. Okay, both are fine. So I'm assuming that this question is now clear. So shall we move to next question?
Yes,
Please.
yes.
Okay. So this is a simple theory-based question. So we have to find out the true statements out of these 4. So JavaScript cannot be executed outside a browser. In the previous question itself, we discussed quite many times that, let's say you execute this program using Node, and whenever you say that you are executing a program using Node, you are not executing it in a browser. That means it is very much possible to execute a program outside a browser. That means first option is not correct. It is mandatory to put a semicolon at the end of each statement in JavaScript language. What do you think? Is it mandatory?
No, sir.
No, it's not.
It's not mandatory, but remember, it's a good practice because it makes it clear that which line is which line is ending where. So that's where it's a good practice. Both Google Chrome and Node.js use V8 JavaScript engine. So that's true that Google Chrome and Node.js, they both use V8. There are some other browsers which use different JavaScript engines. For example, Edge uses Chakra, if I'm not wrong. And Spider Monkey is also used by one of the browser, I guess, Netscape or Firefox. So Google Chrome and Node.js, they use V8. JavaScript, so that means third one is the correct option. Second one is still not. JavaScript can be executed without a document context. Can someone explain me that what does this mean? That executing a program, a JavaScript program without a document context. What does it?
It means that
interactive
without an HTML file.
HTML DOM.
Yeah, that means you are executing it outside a browser. So both of these options are true. That means third and fourth are.
Sir, JavaScript cannot be executed outside a browser is false because
We said that we are executing JavaScript program using Node.js. So
okay.
it can be executed.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, third and fourth options. Yeah.
When we are executing a JavaScript method inside the browser console, like you showed an example. So is that called outside browser or inside browser?
No, it is
Like
inside the browser only.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess this is going to make a bit clear what we discussed in question 3. So we again have to find out all of the true statements. So all the variables declared using the where keyword are automatically added as properties of the global object.
True.
So this is the true statement. We just saw an example for that as well. The variables declared using let keyword are never added as properties of the global object. Declared using let are never added. Yeah.
The first one is mentioned as false. So that's why I asked you in the first question.
Okay, all the variables declared using where keyword are automatically added as properties of the global object. So this is mentioned as okay. Yeah, all right. This question is basically, this option is false because it says all the variables. And if the variable is declared inside a function definition, then that won't be added as the property. So yes, first option, it should be false.
Okay.
The variables declared using let keyword are never added as properties of the global object.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sir, why would you use a where inside a function? Because where is meant so that I can declare global objects, no? If I wanted to do context based, will I not use let instead? Why do
you
they
should
have
be using it? Yeah. So whenever the time ES6 was released and these let and const keywords they came into the picture, everyone has started using let and const. No one is using where.
Okay, but then it's still there, is it?
Yeah, of course, it's still there. Yes.
Okay.
But of course, all are trying to migrate to use let and const. That should be the priority. So yeah, the variables declared using let keyword are never added as properties of the global object. So do you think this option is correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is correct because let it never gets added. The variables declared using the where keyword can be redeclared in the same scope without causing an error. What do you think?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it is correct because again, if I go to browser console and if I say where a equals to 10, this works. And if I say where b equals to 20, sorry, again, a equals to 20, this also works. But the same thing won't work with let. Let's say I say let c equals to 10. And again, I say let c equals to 20.
For const, it will not work.
Sorry?
For const, it will not work. But
No,
for let,
wait.
it should work.
Just a minute. I'll just open one Replit shell. I can use node.js here. Okay, so if I write that where x equals to 10, And after that, I write where x equals to 20. So it should work without causing any error. And we should get x, the value of latest x, that should be 20. But the moment we change it to let, should give us an error. Yeah. So identifier x has already been declared. So yeah, it cannot be.
So we cannot reassign the value of a let, is it?
No, you can do that. But what you are doing is you are declaring it again. You are writing let x. If you just write x equals to 20, that is fine.
Okay, got it.
So the variables declared using where keyword can be redeclared in the same scope. Yes, they can be. The variables declared using const keyword need not be initialized at the time of declaration. What do you all think?
Sir, again, why would you permit a redeclaration in where and not let? Is there a reason?
Well, there could be some reasons, but I'm not aware of those. Could be due to ES6 introduction, because const and let, they have completely different purpose. They have completely different scope if compared with where.
Okay.
So where is basically, very flexible, but that flexibility is not provided with let and const.
Got it. Okay.
So the variables declared using the const keyword need not be initialized at the time of declaration. This is not specific to JavaScript. This can even be thought as an example of Java or C++, whoever knows. So can you declare a const variable without initializing it?
No, in Java there is a keyword called final.
Sorry?
In Java there is a keyword called final that is similar as const.
Yeah, final. Yes, correct. So what do you think? Is this option true or not?
It's false actually.
Sorry?
This option should be false.
Yeah, correct. It's false. Yeah. So the only two correct options for this question are second and third. First and fourth are incorrect. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So question 6, consider the following view. Yeah.
Sir, so except for const, everywhere else you can do initialization and declaration separately, is it?
No, for const, yes, correct.
Okay.
You can do that with where, you can do that with let. Yes.
Makes sense. Thank you, sir.
So this time we have got a Vue.js code. So it is the following Vue application with markup this, and this is the JavaScript file, and we have to tell that what will be rendered by the browser. So in HTML file, we have one parent div element with ID app1. We have a child element of it app2, and there is a paragraph element which is basically defined, or which comes under the scope of both app1 and app2. And there is one p element which only comes under the scope of app1 message. So if we see the JavaScript implementation, we see that the very first object that is defined, the very first Vue object that is defined, it is binded with an element whose ID is app1. That means this. Okay. So the moment this object will be compiled, or this all of these statements will get executed, what will happen is that whenever message one is there, message one placeholder is there inside the scope of this app1, it will be replaced with what? It will be replaced with the string value that is Abhishek. So that means if you see this app1, so the scope of this app1 is still here, just before closing this div. Wherever you are showing message one, you have to replace it with what? The value Abhishek. So this message one will be replaced with Abhishek. Since message two is not defined in app1, it will remain as it is. It will remain as a placeholder. But now this message one, it has been replaced with the value Abhishek, and it is no more a placeholder value. It cannot be changed again. That means if a new object is created for Vue, then it cannot be changed, because the rendering has already been finished. This message one has already been replaced with the value Abhishek. Now the value that is remaining is message 2. The placeholder that is remaining is message 2. But if you will see that message 2 is declared, or it is basically defined inside the object B, which is binded with object, which is binded with the element app2. So app2 is defined here, but the scope of this app2 finishes here. And this message 2 is defined outside the scope of app2. That means this message to is not going to get any value from the view objects because it is not defined. It is defined inside, for app2 element, but it is out of the scope of that element. So can you print the output? Message 1, we already discussed that it is going to be replaced with Abhishek, but what will happen to the message 2?
So blank.
It will be a blank, correct? So the answer will be, the third one, where it will say the first message is Abhishek, since it is replaced with the value Abhishek, and message 2 will remain blank. So the third option will be the correct answer.
Sir, why is it not printing flower bracket message 2 and then again flower brackets?
Because it will be hydrated. Whatever
Why?
placeholders are there, they will definitely be hydrated. If the value persists or if the value exists, it will be replaced. Otherwise, it will be an empty.
So what if you naturally wanted to use the flower brackets in your HTML?
Then you will have to use escaping.
Okay, works. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
If we would have this P, the second message statement, just next to the first message statement.
Yeah.
Then
in that case, it would be the first message is Abhishek and the second message is Raj. You are saying that this P is just written after this P, right? Inside the scope of this app.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it would be replaced with whatever the value is present here. That is Raj.
Okay. So app1 will try to get the first location where it can place the message 1, and app2 will try accordingly if it is within the scope.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, sir.
Okay. So again, this is a JavaScript program. So what is happening is, again, we are having one object called x1, another object called x2, and we are saying that the add function of x1 object, we are assigning it to y. So x1.add means this one, that is saying that this dot p plus space plus x. So this we have assigned to y, and what we are saying is we are trying to log the value of what this add function returns when it is provided the context x2 and the argument dia. So remember, this is going to refer to x2 and x is going to refer to dia. So this dot b means x2.b and x2.b means welcome, space, and x means dia. So it is going to output welcome dia, welcome space dia. So welcome, this one. Sorry.
Sir.
Yeah.
This means wherever call, apply, or bind are mentioned, then we will never look at the original function, right? Like we won't be taking the parameters of x1. We'll apply x2 to x1 and then calculate everything.
Exactly. Yes.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
So according to this, it will be welcome dia.
Sir, hello, sir. Is there any difference between call and apply?
Yeah, we discussed the difference. So in call, you pass parameters as separate arguments, but in case of apply, you pass them as an array.
No, sir. Like, is there any other difference?
No, there is
because.
No
okay. So why do we need two different functions?
So this is used when the number of arguments are known, and you use array when you are not sure of the number of arguments.
Okay, got it.
So the understanding is this, like the reference to this will be based on the parameter x2, but the function will be called based on what is assigned to y. Is it correct?
Can you repeat it once again?
So the function called will be depending upon what is assigned to y, but the reference of this will be based upon the parameter passed to it. That is
correct.
x2.
Yeah, the function that will be invoked will be the one that is assigned to y. Correct. Okay, so is this okay to everyone?
Because if let's suppose in this question, rather than having this symmetry of this dot b plus space x, Suppose there would have been something else, but with the something with this, then this will become a very tricky question. Like which function will be called and what will be the reference of this. So there are two things here.
I am not getting it.
Actually, right now the return statement is symmetric, right? So it is easy to guess that definitely there will be Divya will definitely get printed. Only question remain is whether the reference to this will be from x1 or x2. This is the only thing that left to find out.
It could be the global object as well. If
yes,
you pass nothing.
Yes.
He is asking about how the method works, how the call method works, I think.
Yeah, so means what you do using call or apply method is you assign a different execution context to a method. That means you can change the value of this inside that function definition. You can define what this shall refer.
Okay, and the call and apply are same thing?
Yes, they are same thing. Just the way you pass the arguments is different.
Okay.
Shall we move to the next question, if this is okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this seems to be a easy question. What you're doing is you are defining an object X, which is having two attributes A and B. A is an array, B is a function that is returning an array. What you do is you again say x.b, which is a function, you assign it to C, and then you call C, of course, with the same object reference X. So what will happen is this is going to refer to X. So this will be replaced with 3 dots x.a, and this is the spreading operator. Spreading operator means all of the elements of this array are going to become elements of this array as well, which is going to be returned by this function. So this will become 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, it will return an array with the 8 elements. The second option should be the correct one. I hope this is an easy question. Is there any confusion in it?
No, sir. It's okay.
Okay. So consider the below code snippet and predict the output. So what is happening is we have one courses list which is having 2 objects in it. Then we have this get course method, and then we have this add course method. What we are doing is we are calling this add course with an object here. Name is met3, description is this. So the course gets this object, and what happens is that you use a set timeout call. That means after waiting for 2000 milliseconds or 2 seconds, this courses will get one more element added in it. That is this mat3 object, this name mat3 in descriptions. Right now, this courses just has 2 objects. One is mat1, the other one is mat. But remember, the set timeout is going to be executed, or it is going to be put in a different stack, right? It is going to be put into the web API component, and the function will continue its execution meanwhile. So, in the meantime, this function is waiting for its turn to come. This get course will be executed. According to get course, what will happen is you again say set timeout, but this time there is basically no interval, so it can be assumed as 0. Now, if you say 0 and 2000, so of course 0 value is less, and this function is going to be executed before this set time. So the moment this timer is over, you come inside this definition, you create a new list, all courses, and you define it with an empty array. And then what you do is you iterate over courses array. So courses array is already defined on the top. You iterate over it, and what you do is you take one element of it and you push it into the all courses. You take second element of it, you push it into the same array. So at last, it logs the value of this all courses array on the console. So ultimately, it is just going to print these 2 objects, because by the time this the timer of this 2000 milliseconds will get over, this function would already have given its output on the console. So it should be only 2 objects. So it should be first option.
Sir, one question here.
Yeah.
Where the web API located? Is it inbuilt with the browser JavaScript?
Which one?
You told the set timer this function call a browser like web API.
Correct. Yeah.
Is it with the engine, JavaScript engine?
Yeah. See, the moment you write, okay, let me show you once again.
My question is, where is it located, the API?
Sorry, where is it?
Where is the web API located? Like we are not explicitly
Okay,
calling
it is.
the API.
It is in the JavaScript environment. So there are two things. One is JavaScript engine, and one is JavaScript environment, which is basically the browser.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
So yeah, the output is going to be these two objects only. The third one won't be shown on the console. The reason is because this will be executed later on. By the time this function would already have finished its execution. Yeah.
But if the last two lines are flipped, then what would be the answer?
If
Like
the last two
first
lines
get
are flipped, the answer would remain same. Answer will remain same.
Like then how the stack is working?
Sorry.
Like how the stack is working? Like I'm not able to visualize.
See, the moment you see set timeout, what you do is you put it into a different stack, and after that you continue with whatever statements are there on in your program. If there are some synchronous statements, then those synchronous statements will be executed even when the timer for set timeout is zero, because this has to wait until the synchronous code finishes its execution. And the moment synchronous code is executed, then this set timeout will again be pushed onto the stack so that it can be executed. That means, what do I mean by this statement is that, let's say if you flip these two statements, that is get course and add course come later. And just after get course, you write console.log hello. That means between these two statements, you write one more console.log statement, that is hello. What do you think? What the output will be? The output
Hello
will be
is the
these two
first.
objects first, or it will be hello first?
The get course object should be first printed and then hello should be printed.
No. Firstly, hello will be printed and then these two objects will be printed.
Okay.
Right. So that is what I mean by synchronous code. That means this is going to be put in a different stack. And once it is put into a different stack, it will only come, or it will only, what I say, means it will only be executed when the synchronous code written after that is executed. So that's what I mean by console.log. That is a synchronous code.
And sir, will each set timeout method create a different stack?
No. There is a difference. There is basically a different component, that is web API. You just put all of those set timeout calls in that separate components, and they are associated with the timer. Whenever the timer gets over, they are pushed into the callback.
Okay, sir. Got it. Thank you, sir.
One more question. In the get course, if you will put the timer as 3000, okay.
In get course?
Yes, 3000.
Okay. Yeah.
That time, what happened? It is waiting for the 3 second. Meantime, in the 2 second, the course is added. After that, it is going to print all three, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Then all of the three courses will be printed. Okay. Shall we move to the next question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, can you just explain that once more?
Yeah, which one?
Can you scroll up or zoom
out? No, that won't help. Okay. Yeah, tell me. Okay, all of the answers would be lost. But I'll just fill them quickly. So it is going to be
20.
20. 3 and 4.
Third option.
The third option.
Welcome, dear. Second option.
Yeah, so it is going to be perfect. Yes. So yeah, someone was asking a doubt regarding this. Can you please again?
So sir, I didn't understand the bit about asynchronous code that you were saying. I didn't get it. Why hello would get printed first?
Okay. So see, what happens is that whenever the control reaches to this statement, that is add quotes,
Right.
the control goes inside this function, inside the
Yes.
definition of this add quotes function. And what you do is immediately you found this, set timeout call. And the moment you find this set timeout call, what will happen is that this is going to be pushed into a different stack or at a different place. This is not going to remain in the same call stack where the JavaScript statements are getting executed. It is going to be put at a different place along with a timer. That means this function, this is basically a callback function. As you can see, this arrow function, what this is doing is this is saying that courses.push course. So this function will be put into that different place with a timer of 2000 milliseconds. That means it will say that I will wait for 2000 milliseconds. And once those 2000 milliseconds are over, this callback function will be put into the callback queue. Again, remember, this won't be put into the call step right after it is finished. It has finished its execution. It will be put into the callback queue, and it will be taken from callback queue when the call stack is empty. If the call stack is executing some other function, some other synchronous code, I'll come on to that synchronous code once again. By the time it will remain in callback queue, and it will only be taken out from the callback queue when the call stack is empty. So what happens is that this function is put into a different place with a timer of 2000 milliseconds. Now the call stack is empty because this has been put into a different place. The call stack has become empty. Since it has become empty, it will execute the further code that is written in the program. So what is the next code? After this add course call, there is one more call, that is get course. So when you go to get course, you go here, again, you find one more set timeout call here. Again, what you do is you put this entire callback function into that different place, but with a timer of 0 seconds or 0 milliseconds.
Right? So this is now behind that 2000 milliseconds time thing, is it?
No, don't say that they are basically into a stack. That means the whichever will be pushed later is going to come out first. That's not the case. It is going to entirely depend on the timer. Whichever timer gets over earlier, that is going to be pushed into the callback queue.
Okay. So first that thing will get executed.
Yeah. So since this set timeout went into that place with a timer of 0 milliseconds, of course, it is going to finish that timer before this other set timeout finishes, right? So the moment it finishes its timer, it is put into the callback queue. After that, you see that there is nothing in the program. The program has finished its execution. So the call stack is basically empty. Now the call stack is empty. It will start looking into the callback queue. That is there anything that needs to be taken out from the callback queue? Then it will find, okay, there is something in the callback. Yes. What is there in the callback queue? It is this function. So it will take it, it will execute it. Remember, this is still in that separate place. This has not come into the callback queue right now because it is still waiting for the timer to get over. Now, according to this, what will it do is it will print these two objects on the console. After that, it will wait for a few more milliseconds because this might not have finished its time. After waiting for the required time, it will be pushed into the callback queue. Once again, callback will check, event loop will check that if there is something in the callback queue, just take it out since the call stack is empty, put it into the call stack, execute it, and finish the program.
Okay.
So once the output has been logged on the console, after that, you are pushing this new element into the courses app. But then that won't have any effect on the previous output. Now, if you will try to print this courses.push, the courses value on the console at someone set, means if the timer would have been 3000 here, in that case, it would have shown all of the 3 objects. But right now, it is just showing 2.
Got it.
Sir, a small question.
Yeah.
If there is a long script which takes a few seconds to execute, and that is synchronous code, then also
that will be executed. That will be executed.
Okay.
I can see someone has raised hand.
Yeah, so mine was also the same query because the similar question was asked in the last previous term paper. So there was another function there, async, and the timer was also 1000 for both add courses.
Once again, async has nothing to do with the timer. Async means that you can use await inside that function, and that function is going to return a prompt.
Okay, so if even if both the timers were not given, even if they like this, the get course is at 0 and add course at 2000 and the async was given, so this would have resulted in MAD3 also coming.
No, it would have been the same.
Okay, so you said no, it doesn't matter, timer doesn't matter in async.
See, async function means that you can make use of await keyword inside that function. That means you can pause the code execution within that function itself in case you don't want some code to be executed before a certain statement gets executed. For example, you have written 5 lines and you don't want the line number 3, 4, 5 to be executed before the statement 2 finishes its execution. Now, what you might be doing in statement 2 that is causing time or that is taking too much time, you might be trying to get some data by using an API call. And let's say what we are doing in 3, 4, 5 statement is you are making use of that data. So you don't want those statements to be executed before you have actually, you have successfully fetched the data via an API. So in that case, you will use await with that statement. That means the program execution will not move further beyond that line until that statement has finished its execution. So by that time, that statement is getting executed. Again, the same thing will happen. The other synchronous code will be executed.
Abhishek. Yeah. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are.
Hello.
Yeah. So I have sent a document in the chat. Can you open that? And that will be like much better way to explain the event flow.
Okay.
Yeah. If you what happens? Yes. What happens as soon? So the stack you can see here. The frames. These are the functions. And this is the queue which we call the message queue. And this is the heap. So as soon as the program gets asynchronous code, it doesn't execute that. It just pushes the callback function to the heap, and if it is set timeout, then it will wait there for whatever the time you have mentioned. Let's say you have mentioned 2 seconds, then it will wait inside the heap for 2 seconds, and as soon as the 2 seconds happen, it like enqueue it in this message queue. And once the stack is empty, then it will be pushed inside the stack, is this main stack, and then it will be executed. So this is what how the asynchronous code run. So can you go to that question? Previous, yeah. So what happens as soon as the program gets the statement set timeout, it doesn't run this callback function. It just pushes it inside the heap. And because we have not mentioned any time here, so the default time is 0. So it will wait there for the 0 seconds and then push it inside the queue. And then, and when it goes to the second add course, it takes the callback function. Callback function means this arrow function, and it pushes it inside the heap and wait for 2 seconds there, and then again push, then again enqueue into that queue. And because we have not any, we don't have any synchronous code inside the stack is empty, and because the first function, the get course function, executed first, so the callback function. The callback function which we have mentioned inside the get course, it is in the queue, the first element in the queue is that function, so it will push into the queue first, and then the second function, which is the callback function for the add course, is second in the queue, so it will come second. So whoever you have taken the course, the data structure and algorithm. So the way queue works, whoever comes first will be executed first. So this one, the callback function for the get course will be executed first, and the callback function for the add course will be executed second. That's why the answer of this question is like this.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
So if the get course and add course both are having the same timeout, okay,
yeah,
suppose
so
2000,
so
then their order of occurrence will decide how they entered into the queue. Correct,
yes.
sir?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
If the time is same, so whoever comes in the queue for whoever will be executed first. I mean, whoever will be called first will be executed first. So if you remove this 2000 from here, so still, if you remove this 2000 here, then the add course will be executed first, and then get course will be executed second.
Yes, sir. Understood. Thank you, sir.
Or it can be like both the options, like one option without adding the mat3 and other option with adding mat3 in case there is no set timeout for add course. Why? Because if add course is run first, then get course will give all the output of mat1, mat2, mat3. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So if add course it finishes its execution before get course does, then it would have pushed this new object into the courses. And since you are just iterating over that array, so yeah, you will get the third object in case it finishes its execution before the next one.
So basically, if there is no timeout for the add course also, then both the options, if there are two options like mat1, mat2, and second option mat1, mat2, mat3, both should be correct.
No, why both should be correct?
Because we don't know which one will be executed first.
No. I mean, if it is a synchronous code, so it will not go into the task queue. It will be executed as soon as it will be invoked. So you know the
like in Java, there I mean this happens through a thread. Here it is happening serially.
I mean this is some simulation of thread. So as soon as a asynchronous code runs, it goes into some separate thread, and whatever this asynchronous function does, it does there in that thread.
Correct. So if we don't have any set timeout like 2000
I understand, but then that is a synchronous code. So synchronous code means it will execute one by one. So whoever will be invoked first will be executed first. Like if you remove the set timeout from both the functions, so the add course will be
in that
executed
case,
first.
add course will be executed first.
Executed first, and the get course will be executed second.
So option B should be correct in that case.
Yes.
Yeah, so if there is a timer of 0 in both the cases, then the option B 3 would be correct. There should be one square bracket as well. Then this would be correct.
I mean, if the time is same, then it is like the synchronous code. The only difference is it is coming through the task queue. I mean, the code is asynchronous, but it will act as a synchronous code if you put 0 everywhere, because I mean, whoever will be invoked first will get into the task queue first.
Yes, but then how can we predict which one will go first?
I mean,
just
you are
because
writing
of
the code. You are writing
the
the
line
code,
number of the script.
Your line number in the script. I mean, here you can see the add course is being invoked first because the code will run one by one.
Okay.
So see, the moment control reaches this statement, the second line statement of this program, this makes a call to this add course function. What this add course function does is this puts this callback function with a timer of 2000 milliseconds in a at a different place. And after that, it won't wait for this function to finish its execution. What will it do is it will move to the next set of statements that are written in the program. Right now, there is just one statement left, that is get course. Now, it will go to get course. What it will find is that there is one more set timeout, and what is the timer associated with it? It is nothing. So as Narendra said, it would be 0. It would be considered as 0. So it would also be put at the same place where the last set timeout was kept. But this time, what will happen is this is going to be immediately pushed into the task queue because the timer will get over as soon as you put it into the heap. So The moment you put it into the heap, the timer gets over, it is pushed into the callback queue. From callback queue, it is taken back into the call stack. It finishes its execution. If needed, it will wait for some few more milliseconds for these 2000 milliseconds to get over. Once this timer gets over, it will be pushed into the callback queue and it will be taken into the call stack.
Yes, this is clear.
So this is when async function is given, or like this only without
async has nothing to do.
Okay. This is when both of the set timeout doesn't have any timer.
Yeah. Sorry. Can you repeat?
This is when both set timeouts have zero timer, right?
No. If both set timeouts are zero, in that case, it is going to print all of the three objects, because what will happen is if this timer is zero as well, the moment it goes, let's say it goes into what into the different component called heap, the code will move to the next thing, will move to the next function call, that is get course. The moment it will go into the get course, it will see one more set timeout and the timer is also zero. It will also put it into the heap. But since both the timers were zero and this one was pushed before, so this will come into the callback queue first, and this will come into the callback queue in the second place. If the timer is zero, the very first function that got executed, that is add course, it is going to put this courses.push, this arrow function, in the heap. The moment it puts it into the heap, it will move to the next set of statements, assuming them to be synchronous. It will say, okay, this is a function call, I need to execute this function. The moment it gets inside this function definition, it sees that there is one more set timeout with the timer zero. It also puts it into the heap. Now, after putting it into the heap, it will check that if there is any other synchronous code remaining in the program. But since there is no synchronous code remaining, it will see that this arrow function would have already come into the callback queue, because it would have finished the timer of 0 seconds. Then, since there is nothing in the program, it will take this callback function from the callback queue and will put it into the call stack. It will execute it. By the moment it is executed, this function will also be put into the call stack, into the task queue, because the timer would have been over by that time. And once this has finished its execution, this will be executed. So in that case, the courses.push has already executed before you iterate over this loop. So in that case, all of the three objects will be pushed into this new array called all courses, and you will get all three objects on the console.
But sir, mat3 will come first, right?
mat3 will come first, yes.
Since mat3 was pushed first.
Yeah. Correct. That's why it will come first. If the timer is zero in both the functions and you just reverse the statements, right? Get course come first and add course come first, then the output will be the first term. Because you are iterating over that array first, and after iterating over that array, then you are pushing. So the output will remain same if you will reverse these two statements, last two statements, and change the timer to 0 in both the cases. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Shall we move to the next question?
And sir, just a small doubt. If the same the last two statements are reversed and the set timeout is the same. I mean, the add courses has 2000 as per timer and get courses has 0. But then the async function is used. Then what will happen? The first add courses will get executed first.
So what you are saying is that get course and add course statements or these function calls are reversed, right? This is what you are saying, that these two statements are reversed?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The output will remain same.
Remain same. I mean,
yes,
mat1, mat2, mat3.
No. It will be mat1, mat2.
Okay, only mat1, mat2. Okay.
Yes.
With
what is
the
happening?
async.
See, even if you are putting async here, ultimately what is going to happen here is set timeout is going to play a major role. And set timeout is going to work the same way, the way it is working right now. Why you basically put an async here, so that you can use await keyword inside that function. This is the purpose of using async.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So since you are not making use of await, you can consider it to be a normal function, except that function is going to return promise in that case. That is going to be the only change. But the functionality or the way this program is working right now, it will work the same way in that case.
Okay, sir, understood.
Okay, so this is the next question. How is the v-show directive different from the v-if directive? So choose all of the correct statements. The very first statement says that there is no difference between the two. I'm not sure if we have already discussed the difference between the two. I'm able to remember that I guess we discussed it in one of the activity sections. So any one of you knows the difference between the two?
Yeah, what you have told that if we are using this v-if, at that time, depend upon the condition, it will go and true or false. If the v-if is true, then only it will fire. But v-show, if it is true only, then only it will fire.
Then only it will?
The v-show will only fire if the statement is true only.
The v-show will only fire?
I mean, it will only evaluate for the true, you can say, different word.
In case of v-show, the element will always be in the DOM. But in case of v-if, the element will be in the DOM only if the state, if the condition is.
So v-show uses a style, CSS style based execution.
Correct. Yeah. So what happens is that they both are used for conditional rendering. That means if the expression provided to them, either v-if or v-show, if it is true, then that element is going to be shown on the user screen. And if that expression evaluates to false, that's not going to be shown on the screen. But the way they work internally is different. Like you just mentioned, that in case of v-if, what will it do is that if the condition becomes true, it is going to add that element in the DOM. If the condition becomes false, it is going to remove that element from the DOM. In case of v-show, what it does is it keeps the element in the DOM. It doesn't remove it or insert it into the DOM again and again. What it does is it just toggles between the CSS property of display, right? Just like it changes display to block, it changes display to that. That's it. So there is no difference between the two. That is definitely a wrong statement. And the second statement shows the difference, that v-show directive is rendered in the DOM even if the expression does evaluate to true. We just discussed that in v-show, it always remains on the DOM. It is just the CSS property that makes the difference. But in case of v-if, this statement is not true because it is inserted in the DOM based on the condition or the expression that is binded with the v-if directive. If that expression evaluates to true, then it will be inserted in the DOM. If that becomes false, then it will be removed from it. So second statement is true. Did you understand the difference between the two?
Yes, sir.
Has everyone understood the difference?
Yes, sir. That difference is clear.
Sir, could you explain it once again, please?
Okay. So see, what happens is, if we talk about v-if and v-show, they both are used for the same purpose. What is the purpose? Conditional rendering. That means based on an attribute's value or based on an expression's value, we want to either show a component or show an element on the screen, or we want to hide it from the user screen. Right? This is what we want to achieve. Now, the way v-if works is that if the expression or the data variable that is binded with it, if it is evaluated to true, then what will happen is it will insert that element in the DOM. And the moment that expression evaluates to false, it is going to remove that element from the DOM. Firstly, it puts that element into the DOM. When it becomes false, it removes that element from the DOM. I hope you understand what do I mean by DOM.
Yes, right? Sir.
But in case of v-show, what it does is the element always remains on the DOM. The moment that page is rendered for the first time, it is put into the DOM and it is never removed from the DOM. Then what is going to decide whether it is going to be visible to the user or not is the CSS property. So it uses CSS display property. It is just going to toggle between none and whatever it is blocked. So if it is blocked, that means the condition is evaluated to true and it should be shown to the user. And the moment it becomes false, the expression evaluates to false. It just changes the display property to none so that it becomes invisible from the user screen.
Got it, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
yeah.
So what does it mean by that v if has a higher toggle cost and v show
Yeah,
has
that's what
higher
we
initial?
are going to discuss. So the third statement is you know, giving you some insights on that. So anyone would like to comment that if third statement is correct or not?
Yes, sir, it is correct.
We show should be
Because
preferred when the room. Yeah, can you explain the reason?
yeah, so we show is when the first time it is loaded. I mean, this is very simple explanation, but the first time when it is loaded, it is expensive, but it is not expensive when it is once it is loaded, you can call it back frequently. But we if is costly when it is it is not costly when it is first loaded, but it is I mean, it has cost to be called frequently. So if you have to just update very unfrequently, then we if is preferred, but we show is preferred if the DOM has to be very frequently updated. I
Correct.
hope
Yeah.
it is correct.
Yeah, that's the correct answer. So has everyone understood? I don't know who explained that answer.
Sir, is it because if removes it completely and
Yeah, correct. Just
the
think of
show
it.
does not harm?
Just think of it
Yes.
that you are putting an element into the DOM, you are removing it, you are
Yes.
putting it, you are removing it. Will
Yeah.
it be cost expensive? Or the other thing is that you are just changing the CSS property of the element.
Certainly,
Which one is
if will
going to
be
take more time?
costlier. Yes, sir.
So the
Understood, sir.
CSS one is going to take much lesser time.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So that's why third option is correct. Because if you are, you know, changing the visibility of that element on the screen multiple times, the v show would be preferred over v because it would be less cost expensive. Is this okay to everyone?
Yes, sir. This is clear now. But is there any similar relationship between the computed property and watcher property?
Is there any?
Is there any similar relation between the computed and watcher properties? Like which one is faster than the another one?
See, no, I couldn't comment on that. But watcher is just going to listen for one property, but computed it can listen to multiple data reactive properties.
Okay, okay.
So which of the following, which of the below statement is correct about v-cloak directive? So how many of you have heard about v-cloak before?
Heard about it.
Sorry?
Heard about it in some YouTube video.
Okay. So can anyone explain us that what is the purpose of, what is the usage of v-cloak?
So until the page is ready, the property is hidden.
Are you sure?
Yes, and also we can implement some like when this IIT Madras online degree page is rendered, when data is not loaded, some animation is going on there. So that also can be saved.
Okay, let me try to explain. So I guess we had one such question on view. Okay, so for example, when this page is loading up, what you will see is for some initial milliseconds, you will see this mistake expression as it is on the screen. Right? You will see this these two curly braces, message one and these two curly braces as it is on the screen for the initial few milliseconds. Have you ever tried noticing that?
Yes, sir. Sometimes it shows.
Yeah, it comes up because in that time, what is happening? It is basically compiled. So in case, in order to improve the user's experience, you don't want to show the users that what mistake bindings or what mistake expressions you have on your page. What you do is you attach or you bind a v-cloak directive with each of the element where you are using this mistake expression. Now, what will happen is by default, nothing will happen. It is not going to hide it from the user. We'll discuss how that can be done. The moment you put v-cloak here, what will it do is that v-cloak will remain on this element until this mistake expression is not compiled. That means until it is not replaced with its actual value, that is Abhishek in this case. The moment it gets compiled to Abhishek, that v-cloak directive will be automatically removed from this element. Right? Kindly note this statement. The moment this mustache expression is compiled, the v-cloak directive will automatically be removed from that element. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
So that means that v-cloak directive only remains on that element until that mustache expression is not compiled. Okay, so in that case, what we can do is we can apply a CSS property, the same CSS property, say display. We can say that whoever elements has an attribute defined, of course, I hope you know that you can basically use up an attribute as a CSS selector. That means whoever element has an attribute v-cloak. You can simply use square brackets and can write v-cloak in it, and you can define the CSS property for it. What you can do is you can define a CSS property display none for all the elements who has attribute v-cloak. Now you will say that, this might be useful for the initial thing when this is not compiled. So in that case, it won't show up on the screen. But just, remember the statement that I made, just a few seconds ago, that this v-cloak directive will remain on the element until this expression is compiled. That means the moment this expression is compiled, that v-cloak directive is removed from the element. And since it is removed from the element, that CSS property will also be removed. That means it will become visible on the user screen, on the user's page. So where is it useful is in case you want to hide these mistake bindings from the user for the initial rendering. In that case, that can be useful for you.
Clear, sir.
Is that understood to everyone?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So we were on the 11th question. Yeah.
So do we have to remember like all the directives? Like from exam point of view.
Well, you don't need to remember each and everything, but yeah, there are few common or some mostly used ones. I think you should remember those at least. You won't be asked any view directive that is never taught in the lecture. For example, this v-cloak, since it has been introduced in the mock, you can expect a question in the quiz exam as well. But you won't be getting any question which is not taught in the lecture or which is not even covered in the questions. I am not saying that you won't even get a single question of it. Yes, there are possibilities that you can get, a couple of questions which can basically test your outside knowledge as well. But the chances are less. Okay, so which of the statements are correct in that case remains on the element till the associated component instance is ready. That we just discussed it. It's true. It can be combined with CSS to help hiding uncompiled mistake bindings until the component. Yeah. So both A and B are ready. True.
Yes, sir.
So which of the following could be considered an ephemeral state? So there are 4 options: user database of NPTEL, list of emails selected for archiving, Google search index, and user shopping cart.
Option B.
Option B. Can anyone explain why?
Ephemeral is a temporary state. It's a current snapshot of the memory.
Okay.
So we are selecting emails which are required for us. Once it is archived, we are not interested in that. So that will not be available. So that's why ephemeral state is the most suitable answer is option B.
Okay, and why third is not ephemeral?
So third is representing the complete search index. No? That will be like a system state.
System state.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Sir,
if we talk
I have
about
a doubt regarding D option. User shopping cart, it is going to remain valid till the user is going to make a purchase. Will not that be a ephemeral state?
That should be application state.
No.
Yeah. So in that sense, you are calling it an ephemeral.
As long as I will be making the purchase, I will be having the shopping cart maintained. Like as long as I will be archiving the Gmail, I will be selecting particular list of emails. Doesn't these two seem to be means close to each other?
Can we say the shopping cart is actually session dependent, which is not actually the application state? So that's why it is ephemeral state.
If you add some product to your cart from one mobile, you can see that in some other mobile. That means it is.
That cannot be said as a session state. that cannot be set as a session state.
Okay.
Maybe list of emails selected for archiving in Gmail, that can be set as a session state, because if you will try to open the Gmail in the new tab, you probably won't get all of those emails selected in that new tab, or when you will refresh, I hope that will get lost. So that's precisely the reason for calling it an ephemeral state. Since it is temporary, it is being used in order to show the current view for the application. The data that is required in order to show the current view for the application.
But shopping cart remains there. If I just log out and re-log in again, the shopping cart is still maintained.
You will definitely be able to see
it. Yes. Now clear, sir. Understood.
So according to the ephemeral state, so this question basically asks about ephemeral. So that would be a second option. The next question is also very much related to it, but there is a small correction in it. So when you click the reply button in Discourse and type part of an answer, then reload the page, the content you typed will be lost. So maybe if you would have done this course in the previous term, you would have seen that it used to happen whenever you will type a partial response in the Discourse and you click on refresh, the content will get lost. But now, if you will try to do so, you will find that the content is still there. You can start from where you left last time.
So then that is application
ephemeral state.
So one is saying ephemeral, the other one is saying application. Can you please both elaborate?
So with the given statement, it is ephemeral, but the one you said that now it is updated, that is application. Yes, in the current scenario, the Discourse page, if I refresh, if it is not getting lost, then definitely that is application state.
Okay, and the one you said it as an ephemeral?
Considering the problem statement given here, if the content on refresh is going to get lost,
okay,
then it is ephemeral.
Okay, yeah. So it is going to be ephemeral state in this case as well.
So, sir, to make a difference between the three, the state which get lost in refreshing, that is ephemeral, and the state which is user specific, that is application state, and with the state which is global to all the users, that is.
So you can try to understand it in the form of an hierarchy. The very first thing that comes up is the system state. That is the superset of all types of states. So system state is something that can be used in order to reconstruct the system again. Right? That is the state of the entire system, and that will most probably be independent of the user interface. Most probably be. So what happens is, inside system state, the next thing that comes in the hierarchy is the application state. So application state is a subset of system state, but the meaning of application state is, okay, let me just try to give an example. Let's take the same example of Amazon. You have an account of, you have an Amazon account. What the system state is basically the database of all of the products, the database of all of the users. Do you think that you will require the database of all of the users in order to run your account on Amazon, in order to use your account on Amazon? Do you think it will be required?
No, sir.
It won't be required. So that's why it comes under application state. And now the next thing that comes up is the ephemeral. That is used in order to display the current view of the application to the user. That is termed as a temporary state, because most probably the user is going to scroll over the page, or maybe going to change the tab to some other place. So in that case, it is considered as a temporary information. The example is already given, that let's say the list of emails that you selected, or maybe any other temporary information that you can think of. For example, if I'll just click on it and I'll refresh this page, I hope this answer will get lost if I don't click on check answers. So this can be an example of ephemeral status.
Yes, sir.
And sir, one more thing, that in the MDN docs, if we see, if we change the theme in my browser, then if I refresh it, delete, close the browser and open it again, then also it will be stored. But if I open it from some different browser, then it will only be stored. So what kind of state is that? It is not application, or it is not ephemeral also.
No, why it is not application? I would still call it an application state.
but sir, it is not user specific because I am the user, and if I go to some other browser or some other device.
Yeah, I can understand. So what might be happening is they might be trying to store that user preference in the local storage. And when you change the browser or you even change the device, then of course that local storage is not going to work in the other device or in the other browser.
Yes, yes. Then,
But that
then
can
also
still be a user specific state.
okay. Okay. Here, so here the device is the or the specific browser is the user.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Yes, Salil.
Sir, I wanted to ask the guest mode that we have on Google browsers, Chrome.
Okay.
What is that? Is that an application state or the
So
system?
in what sense? In what sense? Let's. But you are trying to browse on a guest mode.
Normal things like if you're browsing, like when we go to a Chrome thing, we get a news feed personally designed for our preferences. So on the guest mode, it won't be designed, right?
Okay.
So is that like that will be a normal user, all the full user database, like all the normal general list that you have?
So that can be considered as an example of ephemeral state. Even if you are talking about, that what I say. Even if you're logged in, if you are not trying to browse through in a guest mode, you are logged in. That can also be considered as an ephemeral state, because the next time you are going to log in, you are going to get a different set of articles or the different set of things being shown on your page.
Okay. So there it depends on what we are seeing. Like in case I'm seeing this, so this will be ephemeral. In case
Correct.
I log into my account, so that will be a application because that is my user specific.
Yeah, that is user specific. Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to add some pointers to it. So when you are thinking about the system state, think about the server, the state that is stored on the server. But when you are thinking about the application state or the ephemeral state, think about the client that is inside, that is stored or used to display something on the browser. So when you are thinking about the application state or ephemeral state, think about the state that is inside your browser or whatever the client you are using. So if you are trying to browse, trying to load any application, multiple page will be loaded. So all the data that is used to display the whole application is a application state. But when you are trying to visit a particular page on the application, that page needs the data that is used to display that particular page is a ephemeral state. And it can be like when you can change something on that page using the JavaScript. So then the state will change. And think like this: whatever you are seeing on the screen, the data that is used to display that thing on the screen is a ephemeral state. But when you are thinking about the application state, think about the whole application. Like an application can have multiple pages. So all the data that is used to display all the data that is used for the whole application, that is stored, that is loaded from the server to your browser, is an application state. So the main thing here is, when you are thinking about the system state, think about the state that is stored on the server, not on the client side, not on the client. But when you are thinking about the application state or the ephemeral state, think about the state that is stored on the client side. So, and the ephemeral state, the state that is used to display the thing that you are currently seeing on the browser, is ephemeral state, and the thing that is used to display the whole. That is used to create the whole application is the application state.
Okay, sir, understood.
Just give me 2 minutes, please. I'm sorry. Just give me 2 minutes. Yeah, I'm back. Okay. All right. So shall we move to the next question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So any changes to application state such as user preferences will always require updates in the server. Is this statement true or false?
Yes, sir.
Any guesses?
This false.
False, sir.
False, sir.
Any illustration or any example?
It is like the theme one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Indian
Someone
looks.
just gave an example about theme. That comes under user preferences, and like we discussed that it might have been done somewhere in the local storage. So of course it doesn't require changes to be done on the server side. So of course it is false. So this is a view question. Consider the following markup in JavaScript file for a new application. So a div element, it is having one apple component, one pineapple component, one button. Maybe I can just try decreasing the screen size, but it's okay. So what is happening if you will look at the view object? What we see is that the element it is binded with is a app. That means the element with ID app here. The data that it provides is total fruits 10. We'll see that where this total fruits is being used here. It is initially initialized with value 10. Just a minute. Yeah. So in this view instance, we are having two computed properties. One is apple count, one is pineapple count. And we are saying that there are two components that we have defined, two local components, which we are associating them with this view instance. Those are apple and pineapple. Those we have defined here. So now what this is saying is, okay, the question statement is, for this app, the browser will render text apple colon some number, pineapple some number, and a button with text distribute fruit. So it is going to render apple, yeah, according to this, and for pineapple component, it is going to render pineapple in some number and button. So we have to tell that if the user clicks on the button distribute fruit 3 times, so we are clicking on that button 3 times, what will be the value of some number 1 and some number 2? So let's see what will happen. The moment we click on this button 3 times, what it is doing is it is just incrementing 11 in the previous value of total fruits. What was the initial value of total? Sorry, is someone saying something?
10 is a 10 plus 30.
Hello?
Yes, I am telling it is 10 plus 33.
Okay, yeah, it is 10 plus 33, so it would become 43. Now, let's see how are we going to use that 43. So if you will see that both of these components are passing apple count and pineapple count as props. So let's see that how these props are being calculated. So apple count, what you are doing is you are saying math.floor this dot total fruits divided by 2. What is the value of this dot total fruits? It is 43. 43 divided by 2 would be 21. And the floor value, sorry, it won't be 21, it will be 21.5. And the floor value of 21.5 will be what?
21.
It will be 21. So what you are passing as apple count prop here is an apple component is the value 21. So you pass it here and you show it as it is. So that means it is going to show 21 in front of apple. So some number 1 value is 21. And there is only one option, 21. So definitely C is going to be correct. But let's see that 22, whether it is correct or not. So in pineapple, you are again passing pineapple count. So let's see how this is being computed. What you are checking here is this dot total fruits if the modulo division of this with 2 is it 0. So 43 modulo division 2, it won't be 0, it will be 1. So since this condition is not satisfied, we will have to execute this expression that is written after colon. This will be executed when this condition is true. The statement or the expression written after colon, this will be executed if the condition specified is false. So what this is going to return is this dot total fruits divided by 2. That means 43 divided by 2 is 21. The floor, sorry, 21.5. The floor value of it will be 21 and 21 plus 1. That is going to be 22. So 21, 22 is going to be the answer. Is this okay? 21 and 22. Yeah, it's simple and straight.
Yes, sir. So I just wanted to know one thing.
Yeah.
Will you just pull up a bit that component part here, these components?
Yeah.
We in a live session, we used these components as a key, a property, and the value pair.
Yeah.
That is apple comp equal to apple, colon apple, and pineapple comp. So here we are not using that property kind of thing. Is this fine? Yes. If we don't use that and directly we refer
Yeah, it's
this.
okay. That means the component name is going to be apple. So in HTML, you have to use apple as it.
And the file name will be apple.js. It will be same like this name, no?
No. How file name come into picture here?
That will go into the components, no, sir? Separate file.
No, components are here. They are defined here. Pineapple.
Okay. Here it is defined itself. If it goes into the file, then in that case, that will be by the same name, apple.js.
Then you will have to import those components first.
Yes, import, and also the name should be the same one.
Yes.
Yes. No, but depends how you have exported the data. So if you are not, if you are like exporting the the object directly, then the file name and the component name should be same.
Same, okay.
But if you are like writing explicitly the export statement, you are defining the object first and then exporting that variable. Then the name should be the name of the variable.
Name of the object defined. Yes.
Yeah, object.
Yes.
The variable
yes.
which you have exported.
Yes.
And if you not, and if you are not inside the components object, if you are not writing the key value pair, so whatever you will write, it will be considered as key and value both.
Okay, sir. Yeah, that's clear. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so sorry, I guess I missed the first part. That means when you are using default export, the name needs to be same as that of file name, is it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So,
yes.
Yeah, if you are writing export default and then writing the object directly, not you. I mean, there can be two ways. You can define an object and then store it inside the variable and then write the export statement, and that export statement will export the variable.
Okay.
And so in that case, when you are importing in the module, then the name should be same as the variable name. But if you are writing the export default and the object you are writing directly, you are not storing it anywhere. Then the file name should be, I mean, the variable you are importing should be same as the file name.
No, I don't think. I guess we can import it with any other name we want. We'll come on to this. Let us just finish the last question. I see that if I have some, I guess I have it.
Because I mean, this is not possible what you are saying, because I mean, how will the script know that what you are importing?
No, we will specify the file name that we want to import certain thing from this file.
Yeah, but if you will have to write some add statement or something if you want to change the name.
Okay, I'll come on it.
Okay, we'll discuss it later.
Okay. So which of the following statements is our false regarding JavaScript language? So JavaScript is a dynamically typed language, unlike C++ or Java. So what is dynamically typed language? Can someone tell?
So the data type doesn't have to be defined before invoking the variable.
Correct. So it needs to be done in case of languages like C, C++, or Java. But in JavaScript or Python, it is not required. So yes, it is a dynamically typed language. A JavaScript program execution always starts from main function. So again, it is something that happens in C, C++, or Java, but in JavaScript, it doesn't happen. So it is not a correct.
We have to mark false here.
Okay, we have to mark false. So yeah. This is the false statement. The third statement is a JavaScript program must have a function with name main defined in it. Is it true?
False.
No. Of course, it is false. Not required. JavaScript is also an object-oriented programming language.
True.
It's true. So these two statements are false. I hope we have filled all of the answers.
Sir, but in JavaScript also you use let and const and var and all, no? So how will you call it dynamically typed then?
We are not saying that what type of value it is going to have. Let's say we define let a equals to 9. Later you can say a equals to a string or a equals to an object.
Okay, got it. Thank you, sir.
So yeah, all of this is correct. I'll just quickly try that thing.
Sir, one small question I have.
Yeah.
Do you have the facility like importing modules in this Vue version 2?
Importing
like,
modules
in Python, like in Python, we import some like module. We create some custom module and import that. Like importing the DB. Can we do that in Vue 2?
You can import the way you import JavaScript modules.
No,
what is problem
I'm telling that importing entire JavaScript file. Can we do that?
Importing entire JavaScript file.
Yes, sir,
I don't think
module.
so. The way JavaScript works is the modularity. Yes, you will have to export that first. Then only you can import something from. I don't think so. That you can basically import a entire JavaScript file. Like
whatever you have exported from the module can be imported anywhere. When you are writing the export and something, then you are declaring that this is available to other module also. If you will not write export statement, that will not be available to other modules.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just try out one thing. Okay, so let's say if abc.mjs is the file from where I'm trying to export something, and index I'm trying to import. So what I do here is, let's say I create two variables C and D, and I, defaultly export C here. And when I come here in index, I say that I'm importing A from abc.mjs. So I'm exporting C here, but I'm importing A here, and I'm trying to print its value A. So it should work. It should not depend on the file name. Let me see. So yeah, it is working. It is saying answer 0. And yeah, the value of C was 0. So you can even do that without using file name. Or let's say I just try to change it to A, 9, B. And again, I'm exporting it and I'm trying to print that object.
When what you are trying to say is like you have exported explicitly. Go to the abc.mjs.
Yeah.
Now you have defined you have written export default A9, B10, then you can export. Then you can import your index. But let's say you have no, I want to like export this whole object.
Which object?
This one, the object you have written A9. Go to the index.mjs.
Yeah.
Don't write A here.
Okay. So what shall I write?
So what you have written here, go to the abc.mjs. And this is the object, export default, and you have written an object which have two properties A and B.
Yeah.
I want to export the whole object.
Yeah, I'm exporting the whole object. This is the whole object, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm exporting it and I'm getting it in A. The moment I print A here, it should print
you are
the
not. You are not. You are importing A only.
No, this A is going to be this entire object. A is going to be this entire object. The moment I'll print this A, you will see that this is an entire object. Let me see. So see, this is an entire object.
Okay.
Okay, so sir, if there is multiple export declaration, then you have to mention the proper name.
Yeah, so default can only be applied once. If you want to export multiple things, so you can use default with only once. with only
Yes,
one
okay.
thing. But if you want to do multiple, so of course you will have to define their names.
Okay, whatever variable name you will write, it will be stored. I mean, the whole object will be stored inside that variable. Got it.
Okay, yeah, so this thing also works. Okay. All right, so we are done with all the quiz mock questions for mock one, quiz one. So
Thank you, sir, for the session.
I'll stop sharing. All right, so are there any questions from anyone?
Sir, is there any clear-cut way to distinguish for clear-cut way to distinguish between var, let, and const? Because we know that var has two scopes. Like if it's used inside a function, then it assumes a local scope. Otherwise, it's a global scope.
Correct.
Are there any such rules for let and const as well?
Let and const have block scope. That means they can only be accessed inside the scope in which they are declared, inside the set of two parentheses.
Right, sir.
They cannot be used outside that. And of
Right.
course, const has some special things like it cannot be reassigned. It should be initialized while declaration, things like that.
Yes, sir. Const cannot be reassigned, but if it is an object, then the object's properties can be changed, right?
Yes.
Using setter methods.
Correct.
Got it, sir.
Explain the sort function. So what is the issue in sort function?
So when we use only sort now, it takes the first digit in the order. For example, -22, -43. So it will take the first number in ascending order, whether it is a negative or positive. Otherwise, for ascending and descending, we have to explicitly mention A minus B or B minus A.
Okay. Yeah.
That context.
Yeah, so means I'm not getting that. What's the difficulty in that? You will have to listen. Okay, why A minus B and B minus A? So you will basically have to do an entire dry run. I'll just take you to the Mozilla Firefox. Oh, sorry, MDN docs. So see, what happens is that A and B are the two arguments that are given in that sort function. So let's say you write A minus B or you write A or B minus A, whatever it is. If the result of that is greater than 0, so what you will do is you will put the element A after B. If the result is less than, okay, maybe let me open just a pane. So let's say I don't have a pen right now, so I'll just try to draw with the help of mouse. Let's say it is 3, one is 2, other one is 1, and there is one called 5. Okay, and you are using sort method. Let's say this is an array, and you are using sort method with the implementation A minus B. Okay, so what will happen is you will take first two numbers from this array, you will subtract it. What will happen is when you subtract 3 minus 2, the answer would be positive 1. And if it is positive 1, that means it is greater than 0. In that case, what you will do, you will sort A after B. Go to paint. So that means you will have to keep this element 3 after 2. So this will become 2, 3, 1, 5. Now, in the second thing, in the second iteration, what you will do, you will compare 3 and 1. What will happen is that 3 minus 1, it will become 2, right? So what will happen? It will again, is giving result that is greater than 0. So in that case, 3 should go after 1. So what will happen now? It will become 2, 1, 3, and then 5. Then what will happen? It is 3 minus 5. So 3 minus 5 is going to be what? It is going to be minus 2. And if it is minus 2, that means less than 0. What will happen is you have to say that sort A before B. That means you will have to leave it as it is. Okay. Now what will happen is you will again start iteration from the very first, from here. So what will happen is you will again say 2 and 1. So 2 minus 1 is what? Again 1. So what you have to do, you have to put 2 after 1. So now the new array will become 1, 2, 3, sorry for bad handwriting, and 5. Okay, so now what will happen is you will compare 2 and 3. So 2 and 3, it would give us minus 1. So minus 1, that means you will keep it before that. So that is okay. And then 3 minus 5, what will happen? It will again give minus 2. That means you will have to sort B before A. That is fine. Again, you will start from the beginning. So you will have to basically repeat this entire iteration for 4 times, since there are 4 number of elements in the array. But now you know that the array has already sorted, right? 1, 2, 3, 5 is basically the final version of that array that would come in the descending or ascending. So this is how this sort function basically works. Okay. Okay, all right. Are there any other things? Okay, so in case there are no more. Yeah. Yeah, yes, please.
Sir, in mock, yes, sir, in mock, there is a question. The question number 15.
Yeah.
What I was interpreted that when we click on the distribute fruit button, the function will be we distributed fruit without here we are updating the total fruits by 11, but I interpreted that before updating total fruits value, we called the computed apple count and pineapple count.
It will be called in that case, but the question asks that if a user clicks on distribute button 3 times, then what will be the value of some number? So the question is asked after you click on the button 3 times. Of course, if you are not clicking on that button, there should be some value. It would be 11, 11 in both the cases, or 10, sorry. It would be 10, or whatever it is, 10 divided by 2, it would be 5. Or in other case, it would be something else, it might be. So yeah, that value will get updated with each click on that button.
So first the computed values will be updated, or the total fruits value will get updated by 11?
The moment total fruits get updated, the computed property will again be computed because they are dependent on this total fruits. Whenever it changes, the computed property also changes.
Oh, okay, sir. What if this things is written in methods, not in computed?
The method needs to be called explicitly. If you are not calling that method explicitly, then that method won't be called. So you will have to specifically mention on the HTML or somewhere in the computed property that you are calling this method.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I have a small doubt.
Yeah.
Sir, when we give a timeout and we mention some period over there, say 1000 milliseconds, so after every 1 second, it is going to get executed. But if I have a clear timeout condition, and I say that it is going to execute for 5 seconds, so does that mean that at the end of that, means at the 5th second, it will not get executed, it will just come out?
Well, this is browser dependent. Maybe if you will try to execute such code in browser, say Edge, or if you will try to execute the same code in Mozilla Firefox, it is highly probable that you are going to get 2 different outputs in both in the same case.
No, if that comes in exam, then what should be the output?
In exam, that such question won't come. We'll make sure.
Okay, sir. Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day, sir.
Yeah, so thank you, everyone. If there are no more questions, yes, we would like to close this session as well. So thanks all for coming into this session, and best wishes from our side for your quiz exam.
Sir?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question now?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I had a doubt.
Yeah.
From the previous paper, previous term paper. So, if you do, you have the paper, or should I?
Which paper you are referring to?
The previous term quiz 1 paper.
I'll have to get that. What happened?
So I had a doubt in that question number 121.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, it was on JSON. So
it is on
JSON.
Okay.
So the class cat constructor color, this dot color.
Okay, I am able to remember that question. Yeah. So is there anything specific that you want to ask?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask like the logic behind that question. If you have time to explain.
Okay, let me see if I can get that. Let me see if I can get that question paper. Just a minute.
Sure, sir.
So it was in the quiz 1. Was it in the quiz 1?
Yes, sir. If possible, I can also show. I have it on.
So can we have access to those quiz 1 papers, previous papers?
I think you should be access. You should have the access. I don't know. There is some kind of website that even I saw on the discourse. So I don't know.
Yes, sir. That students have made one website which has all the papers.
Yeah, there is one Google sites there. Each object.
Can you please share the link, Celine?
I'll share it. Okay.
Yeah, sure. It can also, you can like if you're there in the diploma in the previous term, you can even see your previous question paper.
Okay. Yes, in portal itself you are saying. Hello?
Yeah.
Is that in the portal you want to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the site.
Yeah, have you posted it in the chat? Okay, thanks.
I posted by mistake his personal account. Yeah.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry, I got disconnected. I had a power cut. So I'll just paste the link of that website. I guess that's the same in the chat. Maybe if you can try accessing that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in that question, what is happening is that see, the very first thing that gets executed is JSON.stringify and C, right?
Yes, sir.
Just look at that entire expression. The very first thing that will be evaluated in that entire expression would be JSON.stringify, and what is given as a parameter to it, C. And what is C? C is an object of class cat, right?
Yes, sir. The let C new cat. Yeah.
In the second last statement, C is a object of class cat. So what will happen is when you convert it into string using stringify method, the information is lost. Now you cannot say that it is an object of type cat. What you will say is that this is a string. And what is the string? It is going to say that there are the object, a kind of string that looks like an object where there are two properties. One is color. The color is white and sound is meow. The moment you apply that string or you pass that string as a parameter to JSON.parse method, what will it do is it will simply convert that string, that whatever I said, into an object. So now the object will look like something. Let me put it in the chat. One is color, and it is going to be something. And similarly, something is going to be sound. It is going to be something. So this is what is going to be the output for JSON.parse. It is going to convert it into an object. Now, once it is converted into an object using JSON.parse, what you do is you pass that object to a method from JSON that is also defined in that cat class itself. So if you will look at that method from JSON, what it does is it accepts something called O. Now, what is that O? We will see. Okay. Now, when you get into that, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay, great. So when you get into that from JSON, I'm not sure if you are able to see that question or if you are on the same page, because I won't be able to actually share my screen at this moment since I got disconnected. So I am not the co-host. Okay, I'm able to share that. All right, great. So now I hope everything is visible. What will happen is with this JSON.stringify C, you convert this object into a string. The next thing that will be evaluated is, or that will be executed is this JSON.parse, which converts this string into object. And what that object looks like, I just posted it in the chat. That how does it look like? There will be two attributes. One is color, the other one is sound. And what we are doing is now you are passing that object to this from JSON method. That means that object is now copied into this variable called A. So that has also now become an object. Now what you do is you create a new object of class cat, where what you do is you use the same color that was available in that object. So O.color was what it was white. So you created a new cat object D, which has the color white, and of course the sound will remain the same, that is meow. What you do is you say that O.sound. So of course the sound was meow before as well, and D.sound is also going to be meow. And what you do is you return that object. So this entire statement, cat.fromJSON, JSON.parse, JSON.stringify C, till this point, it is going to return us an object which belongs to class cat. Okay, because from JSON is returning an object, and it is simply clear that D is an object of class cat. As you can see that it was created here in the first line of this function definition. Now what you do is you try to find out the name of the constructor of that object. I hope you are aware that a constructor is basically a special function. If you would see it in languages like C++, so you will find that the constructors are basically named with the same name as that of class. So they are basically special member functions of classes where their name is the same name as that of class. Yeah, correct. Same name as that of class. So what this object dot constructor dot name is going to give us is the name of the class itself. So it is going to give us the answer as cat. So yeah, cat is the correct answer. Did you get it?
Yes, sir, got it. So JSON.parse will give us, if there was another attribute like sound, and then there was spots, true or false. So that will also come in the JSON.parse.
Correct. That will also come.
Equal,
yes.
Plain.
Everything that was available in C, everything will come.
Okay.
So everything that is available in C or everything that is available in the constructor?
Yeah, of course. I mean, C is basically an object. So of course it is created using constructor itself.
Okay, we need to consider both because one property is provided and one is fast while creating object. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Understood, sir.
Yeah. All right. So are there any other questions? Any questions from anyone else?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. I guess now we can formally close this session. All right. So once again, best wishes for your quiz exam. Hope you all will perform well tomorrow. Yeah, we'll take the feedback from all of you after the quiz exam, and we'll meet again on Tuesday then. So have a good weekend, and yeah, again, best wishes for the exam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.